I want to elaborate a bit about last week's message about respect. Respect is easy for people who feel empowered. If you feel empowered, if you feel like you have wisdom and a connection to the heart, it's easy to respect what's been created and to work with it. When there is no sense of connectivity between us, and no sense of connectivity to something bigger than us, then respect becomes very difficult. It's very easy to wrap yourself in a gotcha mentality, in a demeaning mentality, in trying to make everybody the same, because inside of you, we have been bereft of the sense of order, the sense of inner guidance, the sense of the big father that protects and guides, the sense of the big mother that holds us and comforts us and heals us and nourishes us and forgives us. When those things are absent, then we're all in the world that the famous child psychiatrist Erik Erikson described in 1957, a very frenetic culture where everybody behaves as if they're a sibling, meaning that they are orphans. They don't have a parent. And the truth is, of course you have a parent. Of course there's order in this universe. It may not be completely comprehensible to this little mind, but it's there. I remember reading a few weeks ago an article in the New York Times about a program called The Game of Life. And the creator had just passed away, so it was an obituary. And apparently this guy decided to create a program which had 3 basic rules, and I'm not going to go over them, nor can I remember them. And they had to do with dots on a screen, and which ones created new dots, and which ones died off, and where they went. And in doing that, he managed to create a kind of a universe that captured the imagination of scientists and mathematicians for 30 plus years, where they mapped all kinds of organisms that developed in this world, quite complex, some predatory, some not. And the conclusion was that we don't need a creator, because look, these things just arose spontaneously, and a whole world full of living beings arose spontaneously, so why do we need to think of anything much bigger than our mind or ourselves? And I had to laugh, because it was almost like these geniuses who were working at places like MIT and Harvard and Oxford and all over the universe forgot one thing, which was somebody created that program. That program was created by a human. Somebody put rules in place, and then living within those rules, there was a complete universe. So if we understand that this thing could not have happened easily, just like the idea of 100 monkeys working infinitely could type Shakespeare on typewriters, it just doesn't really make much sense. So if we can even start from that place, then we have to respect things. So to a person who does not feel that there's any order or any direction or any possibility of connecting to an order and direction, it's each person for themselves. If it's each person for themselves, the projection is going to be that whatever selfish, small motivations I have is guiding everything, or I best focus on that. Or as one psychologist once told me, and I was a little guessed, no good deed goes unpunished is the philosophy of that. If that's the case, then every profession, every person of power, every person, every organization, every idea of what a parent or a child becomes meaningless. And when that happens, meaningless-driven people occupy those spaces to confirm it. The purpose of having respect for the office for that is so that we can use our best intent to fill those spaces with our best intent. So I really do reject so much of what I see in the news, in the media, of always trying to find something wrong, something that was done poorly by somebody, and therefore proving that nobody should even aspire to anything higher than they are, because we're all just humans in this together. This is the kind of thinking that allows us to hear from somebody who is, let's say, in organized crime, and somebody who has been a professional murderer, talk to somebody who has, maybe miscounted something on their income tax form, and say that there's a moral equivalency between these things because, look, you don't really obey the laws any more than I do. That's just nonsensical. If we want to live in a healing environment, if we want to live in a healing environment in ourselves, if we want our children and our loved ones to live in an environment that supports them, it's actually really easy. It's right at hand. All you have to do is respect the fact that there is a healing environment, and poof, you are there. I'm not saying that things work out in a nanosecond, but what starts to happen is your world starts to be filled with health. The force of healing begins to operate, and evolution, improvement happens. In that world, when there's a problem, an angel appears to help. If something happens unexpectedly, a meaning appears in you to give you a sense of why it happens and how it might happen and how to get out of it. This is a much more comprehensible, friendly world to live in than the one we keep insisting on projecting to ourselves. Why are we doing that? Well, it might be many reasons, but one of them is we just have bought the idea that we have no power in this world. And if the only way that we're going to have power is by cajoling, by threatening, by duress, by manipulating, by all the things that they teach you on the mean streets of the world, or Harvard MBA training, how to manage people, then you might very well feel like you don't have much power in that world. But if you believe, as many spiritual traditions do, and for example, the Toltec tradition used to call that particular way of working in the world the first ring of power. If you believe there's a second ring of power where we live in a world of energy, we live in a world where everything has intelligence, we live in a world where everything has a personal face that we can interact with, then we have all kinds of avenues of redress that are not available to people who only believe in that first world. And I'm going to go further and say there's even a third ring of power, which is the power of love as presence in you that organizes and moves everything into its proper position just through its presence in your life and in your world. Now, does it take practice to return to this integrity because you had that when you were a baby? Absolutely, because you've been practicing to try and fit in, if you're a sensitive person like this is, into the world of the first ring, probably with a great deal of friction and difficulty, borderline success. Maybe you've had success, but it hasn't really helped you. And I'm saying that there's two bigger dimensions to this world that are open to the sensitive person, that they can learn to live with and create what Jesus would call the kingdom of heaven, what my teacher Miguel called heaven on earth. Whatever you want to call it, we can make this place where you live a much better place. That's going to be a much better place in your career environment, in your family environment, in your world environment, and in your internal environment, in all of the bodies that you have. And that's what I dream for you, to wake up and even begin to understand that there are worlds open to you. We are certainly giving you training for that, giving you support for that as a sensitive healer artist. So I dream for you to see the world in many more dimensions than is presented to you. And I think you will be successful at it. Thank you.